Hello, and welcome to another episode of Startup and Entrepreneurial Series on Let's Grow channel series. I'm your host Meraj Husen, and I'm thrilled to introduce today's guest, Professor Charles. He is the director for WNE FinTech and AI Incubator and Associate Professor of Business Analytics and Information Management at Western New England University. Let's welcome the one and only Professor Charles. Welcome to the podcast, Professor.
Thank you, Meraj. Thank you
Pro-
for having me here.
Professor, how are you doing today?
No, I'm doing great. Doing great.
Professor, tell a little more about yourself.
Um, as you just said, I'm an educator. I'm a professor at Western New England. Uh, I focus on teaching business analytics. I'm also very interested in entrepreneurship, um, and so I am involved with the FinTech Incubator. Um, and besides that, I'm a father. A member of the Springfield community for the past 25 years. So that's for the most part me. Um, I moved to the US in 1998. I am originally from Zimbabwe. So that is the old country where I was born.
Oh, sounds good. Professor, how many kids do you have?
I have two.
Two
They're
kids?
both college age kids now.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Professor, you said I'm interested in a startup and entrepreneurship. How did this start? You were like curious about since the beginning, or how the journey of a startup and entrepreneurship started in your life?
Yes, it's also partly from my experience, and also partly from asking the question, what can we do to revitalize and get companies starting in this community, right? So, from my own personal background, um, I started a startup when I left college. A couple of years after leaving college, I started a startup. The startup ran for like about a year. Actually hired people, had revenue, and so it was a genuine startup
Okay.
that I started. I also, while I was here in the US, around 2004, started another startup. We also hired a number of people, had revenue, but this startup had operations here as well as in Ecuador.
Wow.
Okay. So that's sort of background on my side in terms of startup activity. Um, but I also then wanted to see, can we help young people here start up their own companies, right? Yeah, we've got big companies that grow. As you know, companies grow, some companies die, and you need to replenish those companies to keep the economy going. And so that was an interest of mine to say, not purely as an academic exercise, but as a real exercise, can we get companies that actually do start and generate economic activity?
Yeah, that's so interesting, Professor. So even though in your first startup, you get the revenue, that is like big achievement. Even though there were number of peoples, that was like big achievement because like more than 90% of a startup fails, and a lot of a startup, even the people cannot bring the people and like they die before zero revenue. But you had a revenue.
Yes, on reflection now, it's more like if I had the patience.
Oh, okay.
I think at that time I was expecting more rapid growth. Um, and so when an opportunity presented itself to cash out, I cashed out. You know, whereas thinking about it and seeing other startups, the time it takes them to actually get revenue, I was like, oh, I was actually quite ahead. I probably should have waited it out.
Oh, okay. Professor, when I was going through your LinkedIn, I saw a very different structure that I have barely seen in the people. A lot of people go to the college and they want to go to the market world. But I saw you have a lot of experience, as you also share, in the market, in the industry, and then again you came back to the professor. You already said a little bit you want to help young people, but can you walk us through like how and why did you transition from industrial world to the college
into the
world again?
college world. Yes. In the back of my mind, I had always set a goal that I would probably get to do my doctoral studies by the time I was 30. I remember talking to a colleague of mine in college, saying, by the time I'm 30, I'd have done my doctoral studies. I was always interested in going into research. But by the time I was 30, I moved to the US and got a job and started a family. And so life came and I kept working. But through all of that, I was taking classes. Right. So I did my master's as a part-time student. I did my MBA as a part-time student. And then I did my doctoral degree as a part-time student. All right. So while that experience was going on, I was taking classes. So I was in industry for 23 years before I came into academia. And yes, I learned a lot in industry. And this is where some of the things where I'm saying with my first startup, had I known what I know now, I wouldn't have probably exited there because as you probably pointed out that I had gotten some revenue, some of it was steady, and it was more a question of patience.
Okay. Uh, Professor, you said that I think, as I understood, one of the reason why you came from industry to college is like you are passionate about research. You love research. What are the research you are doing right now? Would you love to share some of them with us today?
Yes, yes. I am very interested right now. There's a lot of research that I'm doing in AI with colleagues. So yes, the advent of large language models. We've been doing a lot of work on sentiment analysis, in particular sentiment analysis on social media, which is different than sentiment analysis in regular text. So that's one area. For my doctoral research, I spent some time doing research on RFID. So I'm interested in the Internet of Things and RFID. I am heavily involved right now in research on causal inference networks. So those are some of the research that I've been involved in. I'm doing a little bit of work right now on payments, cross-border payments. So this is something that has come up recently. Um, but in a lot of these research, they tend to interconnect. They tend to interconnect. And from my background, a lot of my background was in databases. Um, and that databases and programming languages, that I find quite useful in setting up quite a lot of my research. And I have always been fascinated with mathematics. So from a very early age on, 10, 12 years. Yeah, so that also then, I'm interested in building different types of mathematical models. And so linking that with my database experience is sort of the basis for a lot of my research.
Yeah, that's interesting. So you talk about research in I think three main field. So how do you do the research? Like, who do you do alone, or do you also invite a student? Do you give it opportunity to a student? How the research happen in college? Like the one who is the student who are coming to the college, or the people who want to come college want to pursue about the research. How does the research happen or work in college?
It happens in two directions. Some of it is student driven. Student may say, Professor, I'm interested in working on this. And then, you say, oh, that's an interesting topic. Um, uh, for example, the causality networks. Yeah, let me just walk through that one. I had a student in one of my classes post-COVID. So this is, we're doing class, I think it was in 2022. The student comes and says, I'm noticing there is a lot of people now come. He had gotten an internship at Home Depot, and I was noticing um, that lumber prices were going up post COVID, and so his interest was in finding out is there a relationship between lumber prices and the stock price of Home Depot.
That's
All
interesting.
right. So there were some simple ways to look, like maybe just do a graph and visually and say, is there regression? But I decided to take a more nuanced look at it and say, can we actually determine is there causation
Okay.
instead of correlation? And so that took me down the path of causal inference. And so building through that, built some frameworks and we're publishing some stuff. So that research, as you can see, was initiated by the student. And then I then felt, oh, this was interesting. Can we then look at a more rigorous framework to answer the question that this student is asking? And so that's one avenue, student driven. The other is I may have something I'm working on and I need help. And so I would post that or publish that, and then students sign up and say, I'm interested in working in that. Typically, then be asking, I'm looking for a student with this skill set. And then they can either come and help me with that skill set. Yeah. And in that respect, we may, I have one research project slash commercialization opportunity we're looking at with synthetic data right now. We have assembled a team of students with different expertise, and we are looking at this problem to do something unique on the synthetic data space.
Yeah, Professor, this is interesting. I know you are, so you are doing your own research. You have your own couple of projects. You do a lot of things. When the student come with a new idea, how do you manage the time and how these things work?
That's a good question. Um, It seems, yeah, you always will find time if something is is interesting enough.
Okay.
All right. Yes, I always wonder. Sometimes they're not enough days, but so some of it is careful schedule. Yes, I've got like my primary job, which is teaching.
Mhm.
So I normally need to make sure that my classes are all set up, they're all okay. And often when you've taught your classes 3, 4 times, you get the rhythm of it, and you know when the pain points of grading and those sorts of things come in, and so you are able at that time to know when you can have time to do your research. Yeah, so the things like now over the summer, I do a lot of research, right? Yeah, with different research groups. A lot of work goes on during the summer vacation. And then in between, we, we keep on going. The trick with some of this thing is don't stop. Even if you're doing it slowly, but just keep on going. So some of this research we've been doing for like about 2, 3 years.
Oh.
But yeah, over the summer we spend more time. And then when the semester begins, it's maybe we meet once every 2, 3 weeks. But we still meet at a regular pace. And then, move little by little. It's not as intense as it was over the summer.
Okay, that's interesting. Uh, Professor, I want to ask, I think this podcast will be more dedicated to WNE, FinTech and AI Incubator. My startup and entrepreneur journey start from the WNE FinTech and AI Incubator, and you are the program coordinator. Professor, uh, tell us about how the WNE FinTech, this FinTech program came to the WNE.
Oh, okay. It started as a research project, driven by a partnership with a student who had taken one of my classes. And in that class, we talked about AI. This student ran their own or runs their own portfolio management company.
The student run.
Yeah, this was
Oh,
an MBA.
wow.
This was an MBA student,
Okay.
right? Yeah. So we then met and put together a team to look at building AI models for portfolio management. So as we are working on this project, we're gathering a lot of data, and soon the data outstrips our computing resources that we have in our computers and our desks. And so we end up moving on to AWS, Amazon Web Services. Amazon gives us a grant. So that work keeps on growing. Right. We are gathering data at probably a rate of like about over 1 gigabyte a day. Yeah. Because yeah, we're pulling in stock data, we're pulling in tweets, we're pulling in news articles, and Reddits and all of that, and then looking at sentiment and working through that. So this data is growing. And then yes, on AWS the costs are getting
Yeah.
slowly prohibitive. So here we have sort of an open-ended research project. And at the same time, I am using that data and that research in the classroom. So some of my students for like, let's say their capstone projects, they're getting access to this data, and then I'm asking them to ask interesting questions and then, pull the data. Right? So some of them would be asking questions like, which one has more complaints, JetBlue or Southwest over Christmas period? And they actually pull the data from the tweets, and they look for complaint words and, or test the sentiments and see. So it's also a platform for students to work with the data that's very close to live data. Typically, in some instances, when we're teaching our analytics, we give students data that's a little old. But this
Yeah.
presented an opportunity to give students data that's related to what they're doing, whether it's Twitter, whether it's Reddit, and it's fairly current. So they could ask the like last year or the year before. So I felt that would probably increase engagement. So there were those two aspects of this data in the classroom, as well as yes, it began as research, but yeah, so and it's continuing as research. So we then got a grant from Tech, which is a state agency, to buy a supercomputer. The supercomputer now has enough storage and computing power. And part of the grant that we put in was we were going to also help startups and give them access to this resource.
This is
All
okay.
right. So that then is what formally starts the incubator. Once we started the incubator, we now get other industry partners like Mass Mutual, like Country Bank, to support some of the programming within the incubator.
Yeah, thank you. Professor, before going there, I have one. You share one very important things that I wish you can share again here. You said that you were getting the data from Reddit, and this happened nowadays. So we get a lot of data online, and we use it. And you said like after a couple of years, I love saving that data because maybe later it will not be there. But our generation, I think it's also because like we do not have a lot of experience. We think that whatever data is in the internet, it will be there forever. What is
Yes.
your experience on that one?
My experience at two levels. Yes, there is the expression that once something is posted in the internet, it's always there, it will
Always
never
there. Yeah.
go. I would beg to differ. Yeah.
Okay.
Number one, a lot of the stuff that's on the internet, unless it's commercially viable, it is bound to be either taken down.
Okay.
Right. I know when I was doing my doctoral research, I did my doctoral research over like a 5.5 year period. There were some things where I found things in my first and second year, and I have the links. And then when I wanted to do something with them in year number 4, year number 5, I click on that link, it's a dead link. Yeah, that data is gone. So I, from those experiences, learned that once you have the data, if you need to use that data, make a copy. Very inefficient, yes, not very environmentally friendly, but if you assume it's going to be there, you'll be shocked when it's not.
Not.
Yeah. Then the second experience with the data not being there, we started pulling all this data from Twitter, all this data from Reddit, and we were pulling it under academic licenses. Since the advent of ChatGPT, everybody now realizes the value of their data, right? So now pulling data for free, there are very few places except Wikipedia or somewhere where you can actually get useful data for free.
For free.
You know, now all of a sudden data that was available to us for free for research is now, exorbitant. We can't do that research now without substantial funding.